The stream is starting in 3 minutes. Hi, so today an amazing chess game was played between two very strong chess players in Africa. The evergreen FM Harold Wanyama of Uganda, currently rated 22.95, FIDE Rapid, versus Dante Beukes, currently rated 21.29. And we're going to look at that game very shortly. Okay, so this tournament is taking place in online. It's not a physical tournament, and everybody is allowed to play. Some of the strongest chess players in the continent are playing, including Super GM Amin Bassem, Dr. Amin Bassem, and also Ahmed Adli, and a number of really, really strong players. Multiple categories are being covered. You have the open category, ladies category, you have the under 20 girls, under 20 open, and also the seniors category for players over 50. And it's a 9-round Swiss game where we have 25 plus 10, 25 minutes per player. So it's a rapid event, a 10-second increment from move one. And in round two, one of Africa's strongest upcoming players, international master Dante Beukes, played quite a game. I was reviewing the rounds just earlier, and I saw this game, and I thought I must run it through a computer and look at it at very shortly. And he was playing against a pretty strong player. This is Uganda's FM Harold Wanyama, who's been playing on the scene for a very long time. He's an extremely strong player, and I think, like many other players, has been affected by paucity of resources, which haven't been, free flowing in Africa. They are highly gifted in chess, and so to have such a game against Harold Wanyama is something to look at. So let's not talk too much. Let's get straight into the game. And the current rating for the players we are talking about, FM Harold Wanyama is rated 22.95. This is rapid. His uh, rating for classical chess is at 2300 plus, and I am Dante Beukes as well would be higher rated, and this is his FIDE Rapid 2129. And I am Dante Beukes recently lost, get this, 10-0 against Gwazi Robert in a blitz event, 3 minutes. I think it was 3 minutes plus 0. So have a look. Have a look at this. So the game started. It's a Sicilian. E4, C5, knight F3, knight C6, and Dante opts for the bishop B5 variation. Of course, this avoids tons of theory. We saw this in the World Championship between Magnus Carlsen and Fabiano Caruana. And Magnus Carlsen, well, if you want to avoid many of the lines, then Fabiano Caruana would play this, I think, in one of the games, and it's a line that is very well known and studied. It avoids very many theory, and G6, one of the main responses. Castles kingside, bishop d7, and then now c3. I'm not sure that this is still pretty much part of what is accepted amongst the main lines, but yes, this setup has been seen, including in the World Championship, and to have the e5 move played. But now I am Dante makes a very interesting pawn sacrifice with the move d4, and if you can look at the evaluation, this is still very much okay, and I'm using Stockfish 12 running on a Core i7 8th generation machine. All 8 cores are running. This is depth 21, and it says, okay, fine, this is still pretty much okay. And FM Wanyama plays the correct move, and then accepts the pawn sacrifice, but doesn't exchange off many pieces. Maybe one can argue there is reason to exchange off the knights, but then the advance, I mean, black isn't very well developed. White is slightly ahead in development as a result. So FM picks with the e-pawn. This is still very much okay. And then I am Dante Beukes follows up with the move bishop to f4. I think black plays knight on g to e7. But then already allowing the recommendation here is that perhaps instead of knight on g to e7, maybe immediately to challenge the bishop, and then perhaps also consider options that would allow for a quick d5 to come into play. But then this allows bishop to d6 immediately. a6 is still on the cards, but black castles. And knight e2, knight on b2 d2 develops the knight, and now this move h6, which the computer doesn't like. It still features as one of the top 3 moves, but again, already it seems as if white has a significant advantage. So what's going on? Number one, the black has a bit of trouble developing. He's significantly behind in development. The bishop on c8 is back at home. The knight on e7 is pinned. Yes, he has an extra pawn, but the extra pawn is what is sitting on d4, which can easily be attacked by knight to b3, and it can be picked. If that were to be the plan, which I don't think it is by far, and it will take black a long time to join his rooks. And so white, on the other hand, has pretty much free development. The pieces are almost out, all of them, and he can easily generate an attack. I think this is the main issue, and black needs to think about how he's getting out his pieces immediately. Instead, what happens? He plays a move h6, and h6 doesn't really support development as much as possible. I think what is concerned about is bishop coming to c4 and knight to g5. It can be a bit of a problem. Then FM Dante plays a move that makes this officially a grandmaster game. This is what Gotham Chess says, and I fully agree. Nowadays, because of AlphaZero, it's not a serious game until h4 has been played after castling kingside, and that's exactly what happens. And now there is this pawn lever sitting on the g6 square, and the idea is basically to push to h5 and then take off on g6, which would weaken significantly the a2 g8 diagonal. And if not, then g5 will be provoked. Again, that will weaken the b1 to h7 diagonal, and of course, the pawn sitting on g5 becomes a target, and the king becomes weaker. Ideally, Harold should consider the move a5, but then that allows the g5 square to be extremely weak, and it makes the previous move h6 completely irrelevant because it was meant to stop the knight coming to g5. And so it's possible this move rook to e8 is extremely slow. Yes, the idea is very simple to get the knight out of a pin, but then where to? Where's the knight going out of the pin? It can't go to d5, can't go to f5, can't go to any of the squares. So really this move is extremely slow. Perhaps the focus should have been on freeing this bishop. The moves coming to mind would possibly be a6 and then b5. And of course, considering the bishop is coming to the square c4, then maintaining defense to the f7 square is something to be considered. So this is a really curious move that was played. The computer suggests either b6 or a6, but certainly white has quite a pull in this position. However, the move rook to e8, yes, it's number 3 in the position, but again, practically speaking, where is the play coming from for black? It's hard to see. And in this position, h5 is played, g5, then and g5 already the computer just completely dislikes. It gives white a +2 advantage. And what's going on here? Number one, this g5 pawn is an immediate threat. You can argue you can't give out a knight for a pawn, but yes, you can. What's the extra piece? The extra piece is this rook sitting down on a8. It will take it, I think it will until the end of COVID for this rook to come into play. This bishop is not faring any better. It requires at least 3 moves to come into play, and then it comes into play maybe on the b7 square. What is it attacking? It's hard to see. And at the same time now, the pawns have moved very far, and you have significant weakening along this diagonal. And these are all features that will come to pass. And again, this is yet another move without developing. Rook to c8, bringing the rook to the open file. And now a6 is played. And that move is not considered at all by the machine. It recommends maybe b6, maybe a5, maybe bishop to h8. Already the kinds of moves being suggested are moves that tell you there's something pretty wrong. And a6 now is too late because of bishop to c4. Now, the second move being considered is rook to f8, and maybe a move such as b6. But the move that is played, b5, suddenly allows for a spectacular move that was played by FM Dante. I am Dante Beukes, and just pause. Don't look at the engine evaluation, just pause and see what the move is. Yeah, I'll give you just 2 seconds. I'm assuming you've paused and you've evaluated, and the move is, ladies and gentlemen, bishop takes f7. So let's look back. As it stands now, white is a pawn down. You already gave out a pawn. That extra pawn is one on d4. Now he gives out a bishop. Okay. The follow-up move, there's a check. This check, actually, the engine recommends the only move that is significant is knight d5 to allow the rook to just come into play, and come and block on e6. Second best move, which is a mate in 16, is king to f8, and king to f6 is a mate in 6. I don't think you have time to work out all this in a rapid game, but that is what was played. King to f8. And now the highly recommended move is just to sacrifice again this knight on g5. It's not what was played, but the move to be considered is a knight to g5. Sorry, my computer is hanging a little bit. I've opened quite a number of things in. So knight to g5, and if pawn picks, get this, f4, trying to force open the square, well, the file, so that the rook can come in and it's basically checkmate. And what if you try and bypass that? It's not what is recommended. Then rook to c5, and now the rook is coming in and to f5, and the knight can't pick the rook, and that's going to be checkmate. I just play a couple of moves to block that, and rook to g5. And if the bishop picks the rook, then of course f picks, the file is open, and it's going to be checkmate in just a few moves. G6, G7, and G8. Well, so we pick G7, G8, and there'll be a checkmate on F6. I think this is pretty straightforward. This pawn is going to move forward, and once the king moves up, a check and a checkmate on the G6 square. So that's pretty much the fastest way. It will be a mini chat at 27 moves. But in fact, what happened was rook c5 followed by bishop to f6. This is still a +7 advantage. Why is that? You're piece down and a pawn down, because the rook and the bishop are on a holiday in the southern coast, the white sandy beaches of the southern coast of Kenya, Diani Beach, and they're not interested whatsoever in what's going on. And e5, attack the bishop. Bishop goes down to h8. And what do you expect? What's the move to expect? Obviously, now FM Dante says, I've given you a pawn, I've given you a bishop, now let me give you a knight. And he gives the knight on g5, the knight is picked, and calmly plays knight e4. So there are multiple threats in this position. The knight is coming to g5, the queen is coming to f3 or g3, e6 is a threat, f4 is a threat. Multiple issues to be faced right now. And the knight on e7 is still pinned, and essentially this is a situation that looks really bad for white. King to g7, stepping out of the pin to allow the knight on e7 to move. But now just a simple knight takes g5. The queen wants to come in to f7, which is a checkmate in a few moves. Black can't allow that, so rook to f7, and then now queen comes to g3, threatening a discovered attack, which would win the queen amongst other things, but most likely checkmate is the most likely scenario. Queen steps out of that discovery and goes to, well, the king steps out of that discovery, goes to h6, and now Dante says, okay, what else can we sacrifice? What else can we sacrifice? And he plays the move e6. The e6 pawn is picked, and now FM says, why not give you another piece? And he gives his knight. I think this is a stage where he gives his knight out to, just one moment, I think I need to close too many of my windows so that the computer responds a little bit faster. That's exactly what I'm going to do. Okay, so yeah, so yes, so after e6, the FM picks the knight on c6, and this knight can't be picked, because the moment you pick it, then this knight moves down with check onto f7. You pick the knight, and this is going to be checkmate. For example, if this is done, remember this knight is stopping the checkmate on g6, then this is a discovered attack check. The king either moves to f7, in which case it's queen to g6 checkmate, or you pick the knight and you still allow this checkmate. And so that is not possible, and it's not something that can be played at all. So instead, the queen moves to e8, attacking the rook. Black says, you want my rook? You know what? Take the rook, and I'll add you the knight. Choose the one you want. Of course, the picking the rook will result in wrong move. Picking the rook will result in a capture queen to g5 and knight to f8, which will be checkmate. So that is not possible, and so white doesn't have too many. Black doesn't have too many options. He has to pick the knight and go for pilgrimage. That pilgrimage will not work. It should have happened earlier, and now the IM gives out a bishop. Exchanges for the knight. For the knight, the bishop can be picked. The only person that can pick is a queen, but that allows checkmate here. So again, if you pick this, then there's checkmate on g6, and that's not allowable. And so the FM plays, the IM plays, the FM plays queen to f7, which is pretty much one of the few moves that could be tried, but the game is essentially over. Now look at this, the rook is hanging. White can pick the rook, but not interested. This bishop is pinned against the king. So what do? Bring the rook to e1, attacking the rook, and already now the material is almost even, because once white picks the bishop on e6, then not only is material equal, but how do you avoid checkmate? In this place, black plays king to h7, and after king to h7, we have rook picks the rook on a. Well, my comp is hanging a little bit. I hope we get to that move. But the move we're looking at is going to be king to h7, which was followed up by rook takes rook on e, taking e6. Then we had a bishop to g7, then followed that by h6, attacking the bishop. And pretty much, I just hope the machine stops hanging so we can finish this line very quickly, and we see how this played out, but it is not responding the way I would like it to. There we go. So rook takes g6, bishop g7, h6, bishop e5, which basically is capitulation. Now here, for some reason, the FM will play the fantastic move, opted for a suboptimal move, but of course, the best move in this situation is rook takes e5, and what do? Pretty much you have to give up yet another rook on f2, otherwise it's just checkmate. It's hard to see how this can be avoided, but instead the IM picked queen times e5, allowing one checkmate, one check on f2, and after king to h2, this is just a one move blunder, but the game was completely lost. And in 32nd mate, it was checkmate on the board. A fantastic game by IM Dante Beukes, and it's really amazing that you're seeing such a game. It's a rapid game, very well played. At no point was black at after round move maybe move 9-10. After that, there was no chance for a comeback for black at all. And indeed, after the move, by the time we were in this move 12, h5 already was looking pretty bad. And certainly after the move 15, bishop times f5, the game was essentially lost. So this is really well played game, a gem. I would wish a senior grandmaster would review it and just tell us what they think about this game. Hopefully this is a game that will make it into some level of prominence, and that's how we see it. But of course, you're seeing it differently. It's a really, really well played game. Congratulations to both players, Harold Wanyama for being a good sport. I've not seen his comments about this particular game, and for Dante Beukes, we hope that your star will shine bright and you show the world what is possible in Africa. So yeah, let me know what you think about this. If you see any variation that we sort of didn't pay attention to, I am looking at it using an engine. You can see the analysis window somewhere there. Then this, leave a comment, a message also for the two players. I think it will be super important for them to be encouraged. They are not weak players at all. And you may look at the ratings now, look at 22.95 and 21.29. That's for you to consider. But African players are generally about 100 or 200 rating points underrated. And for sure, I am Dante Beukes is probably underrated by about 300 or so points. And these are their rapid ratings. In reality, many of these players would be 24, 2500 level in terms of their play. Yes, you can see FM Wanyama being demolished quite a bit here. This is not usual, and perhaps, you know, a couple of strong players can weigh in and let us know whether we are impressed by something decent or by something that ought not impress anybody. Yeah, cheers, guys. That's it from me. Please remember to like, subscribe for a few more videos, and of course, some medical things are coming up at the end of this season. Thank you. I am Dante. Thank you, FM Harold. Wish you guys all the best in the upcoming rounds of this tournament. Cheers. Bye.